everyone, my name is Purva Shaste and welcome back to my channel. Friends, now I am going to explain a GM counter. So today's my PPT is described about GM counters and construction of a GM counter working, disadvantage, advantages. So let's start. So friends, what is it? A Charger counter is a device used to detect radiations. It has two main parts. So as we know, GM counter as a Charger or a Geiger. Geiger counter is a device used to detect radiations. It means this is a device which detects a radiation. A GM counter has a tube. This sends a radiation. A GM counter has a tube which sends a radiation, electronic called radiation. This processes signally and show the results. Inside the tube, low pressure inert gases like helium, neon, or argon are present. A high voltage applied tube. Inside the tube is a low pressure inert gases like helium, neon, or argon are present. A high voltage is applied to the tube. When high energy particles or gamma rays enter the tube, they ionize the gas, make it conduct electricity. This ionize causes a reaction called a Townsend discharge, which amplifies the signals and produces a pulse. So basic construction of a GM counter is this, like a tube and two sources are connected, and at one side which where the tube starts, there are ionization of a radiation enters and end with a mica window which present in at the end of a tube. So first is a GM tube. The heart of a GM counter is consist of a cathode, means outer tube, which act as cathode, and anode means a central wire which go through the axis of a tube. So cathode, a cylindrical metallic tube which act as a negative electrode, means cathode. A thin wire, usually tungsten wire, stretched along the axis of the tube, connected to the positive terminal of a voltage power. Window, mica window, it is present at the end of a tube. There is a mica window, thin plastic window that allows low energy particles, especially alpha particles, to enter tube. High voltage supply, typically in the range of 40 to 90 volts, so maintains a strong electrical field. Fourth, quenching system. It means stops discharges charge and quickly after each ionize the event, and to allow detection of individual particles. Type of quenching means internal quenching and external quenching. Fifth, counting and display circuit converts the pulses generated in a GM counter into count that can be read, including pulse amplifiers, counter, scalar, digital or analog display. How it works means working of a GM counter. Radioactive particles enter the tube through the window. Means in a metal tube, the radioactive ionization means ionization of radiation are enter, means helium, neon, and argon through the window, means that mica window, it ionized gas inside, means argon or helium gas ionized in the tube with the axis of a wire. The electric field accelerated electrons towards the anode, creating cascade of ionization. This avalanche results in a measurable electrical pulse. The pulse is quenched and then counted by the electronics. Now, advantages of GM counter. GM counter is a high sensitive which detects low levels of radiation. Simple and rushed design, mechanically simple, durable, and make it suitable for a field. Im- Immediate results provide a real-time detection with audible and or visual outputs like clicks and needle deflation. Cost effective, relatively impressive and cost effective. Portable, which means where compact and light in weight. Wide detection range can detect different types of ionization of radiations. Now, disadvantages of GM counter. First, cannot measure radiation energies like gamma. Second, dead time. After detecting a radiation particle, it has a short dead time during which cannot detect another particle. Third, limited lifetime. The GM counter wears out over time, especially when exposed. Sensitive to environment, it is very sensitive. Performance can be affected on factors like humidity, pressure, temperature. No directional information, it cannot determine the direction of a radiation source. What is a dead time? In a GM counter, dead time is a short period after each detection event during which a GM counter is unable to detect another ionizing particles. Why does dead time occur? When a radiation particle enters the GM tube, it ionizes the gas inside, like helium and argon. This creates discharge pulse that is registered as a count. A tube must then recover and reset the electrical field before detect another event. So this is a graph of Plato graph. In here we see a Plato like between a count rate and applied voltage. What is meant by Plato? In a GM counter. In the concept of a GM counter, the Plato refers to the flat, stable, constant region, a graph of a count rate versus applied voltage. So you can see in the graph.